Yeah, uh-huh. We're doing church now. We are doing church now. Yes, we are. Woo! Loving it. All righty, so Mike Dooley is an author of the best-selling book, Infinite Possibilities. And I want to tell you just a little bit about Mike. When he started out, he was 9 years old, and this is when he first began to understand how the laws of the universe worked. You see, his mother had enrolled him and his siblings in horseback riding lessons, and so they were learning to ride horses on ponies, little ponies, because they were small children. And after only 6 weeks of lessons, there was a competition. And he and his brothers and sisters and a few other kids were all in the center of the ring, ready to see who won, who'd done the best job. And he nearly fell off his pony when they called his name first. He thought, oh my gosh, I've won. Only to realize that they called the names in reverse order. And so then he realized he was actually last. He got a ribbon that day, but it was a green ribbon. So he went home and he asked his mom, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to win? And she said, you need to do 3 things. You need to ride with your shoulders back. Everybody do that. It feels real good. Kind of roll your shoulders back. Okay. Shoulders back. The next one we can't do so well. He said, with your heels in, that's number 2. I guess it would work if you were on a pony. I don't know. And number 3, every night before you go to sleep, ask God to help you do your best. So he got real excited, Mike did, because he could do all 3 of those things. He knew he could do all 3 of those things. And he got to where he would look forward every night to his conversation with God. It became, of course, a time of prayer. And during that time of prayer, he started to visualize what it was going to be like to win. He was telling God all about it. He says, during my 5 or 10-minute prayer, I was thinking thoughts of victory. I could see that blue ribbon in my mind's eye, not the green one. I could hear my name being called last, not first. And I imagined myself receiving that trophy with the little horsey on it. Every night, I was intently visualizing and thinking about winning. And those thoughts came to pass. Sure enough, they did. The very next competition he was in, he won and got the blue ribbon. All right. So fast forward to his young adult years. He's gone through college. He's graduated with an accounting degree, and he's working for Price Waterhouse, which at that time was one of the big 8 accounting firms. It was very prestigious to be working there. It still would be. They have a different name now, but it was very prestigious to be working there. There was only one problem. He was a bad auditor. Everything he touched dismantled. After only 3 months, he was, as he said, a walking nightmare. In fact, he wasn't working on any job. They'd taken him off all the jobs. And he would go home to his mother. He was still living at home at the time. And he said, Mom, they're going to fire me. I know they're going to fire me. I'm going to lose this job. I am a failure. There's no way that I'm going to continue to work. And then something hit him. He started listening to his words. He listened to what he was saying, that he was going to get fired. And some part of him must have remembered back to that little 9-year-old boy that knew the power of visualizing, and he decided to change his thoughts because he knew that with his thoughts focused on being fired, that he would be fired, right? And so instead, he began to visualize being successful. Now, there's only one problem with that. How can a bad auditor visualize what it's going to look like to be a good auditor? If he knew how to be a good auditor, he would have done that already, right? So he knew he couldn't visualize how to be a good auditor exactly, but he visualized what he wanted it to feel like. And he visualized himself walking through the halls of the offices and feeling good about himself, waving to friends, and they would wave back, which at this time they weren't really waving back to him, And he had this beautiful vision of what it was going to look like. And so sure enough, within a couple of weeks or so, he got a call to go work in the tax department. Now, this was not a good thing. Nobody wanted to work in the tax department. It was unfailingly complicated, and he was scared of that. But since he was the only auditor that wasn't assigned anywhere else and the tax department needed help, off he goes to the tax department. And guess what happened? Turns out he loved the tax department. Turns out he was good at that. Turns out in no time at all he was walking down the hall waving to people, right? Hey, how you doing? And he was loving it, and he went on to stay for 10 more years. Now, he couldn't have visualized that because he didn't know he would like tax accounting. But turns out he did. All he did was visualize the end result. What was it going to feel like? He was going to feel good. He was going to feel like somebody. He was going to feel like he was making a contribution. And that is the vision that he held, and that is what came to pass. You see, we don't always know what it is, how it is that we're going to get to the place that we want to get. What we're talking about today is something you've heard before called the law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. There's power to our thinking. And the way that Mike Dooley puts it in his book, he says, thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. I mean, they manifest like that. Thoughts are things. Would you say that with me? Thoughts are things. And then he goes on to say, thoughts are things, so choose the good ones, right? You see, we have a choice. You have a choice. You and I have a choice at every moment what thought we're going to think. And our thoughts are creating. Every thought is creating. Now, what I know is that this is a foundational teaching to unity. It may be one of the very first unity messages that you came to understand. And you may think, well, I know all that. I know, Patricia, the law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. What I think about grows. Yes, I know, thoughts are things. But here's my question for you. Are you living it? Are you living it? When you get this one down, your life will transform. When you get this one down, when you get it, that your thoughts have power and they are creating in every moment, then you've got it. You've got it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This book, Infinite Possibilities by Mike Dooley, is an awesome book. Here's how he says it works. Why is it that our thoughts have so much power? It works like this. You see, our thoughts have a vibration to them, and they begin to attract to them. Dooley says, every minute of every day, we get to choose what we'll think. Once a thought is thought, it's as if it's instantaneously endowed with its own power and will to become physical, or just as miraculously to begin attracting its nearest equivalent. So, when you have an intention and you put your thoughts on that intention, what happens is your thoughts attract other divine ideas like that. You see, the universe works in divine ideas. You'll be inspired with divine ideas that match that thought. You'll draw to you people who match that thought, who are aligned with that thought. He goes on to say, so it's up to us to choose our thoughts wisely. And it is, because all thoughts are creating. Now, I put it in a simpler way. I call it the red Prius theory. You see, I bought a red Prius a while back. And when I bought it, I thought it was so cool to get a red car. Nobody else had a red Prius as far as I knew. But as soon as I had one, everybody else bought one too. Okay, maybe they didn't buy one. The truth is, I just started to see red Priuses everywhere, right? That's how it works. Because I had red Prius on the brain, it was my thought, and therefore I started seeing them everywhere. And maybe I was attracting them. Who knows? I was vibrating at such a high level, loving that car. Maybe I did cause some. How many of you all went out and bought a red Prius? Anybody else? Oh, come on. I see them in the parking lot. Our thoughts are attractive. They are powerful. Your thoughts are attractive. They are powerful. So, what are you thinking right now? Can you catch it? Can you catch a thought? Oh, come on. I know you're not all sitting there thinking, boy, that Patricia's given the most amazing message ever. Because that's the way it works. There's lots of messages. There's multiple thoughts that are happening all at the same time, right? They are. So the question I would ask, if you can just grab hold of one of those thoughts that are whizzing past your mind, is that a thought that's going to create what you want to create in your life? Because it's creating. Whatever it is, it's creating. That thought is. Jack Canfield, who wrote The Success Principle, has some good news and some bad news for us. He says that the average person talks to himself about 50,000 times a day. Now, I guess he means not out loud for most people. But some of us, I closed my door the other day to my assistant, Sandy. I said, Sandy, I'm just going to close the door because I got to work this out in my head, and I'm going to be talking for a while. So maybe nobody else does that, but I do. Anyway, Canfield says that we have 50,000 thoughts, that we are talking to ourselves 50,000 thoughts a day. And the bad news is that there's research to suggest that 80% of those are negative thoughts. Thoughts like, dang it, I messed up again. Would you look at what he's wearing today? Oh, I will fail. I know I will. I'm going to get fired. I know I am. Just negative worry thoughts, critical thoughts of others, critical thoughts of ourselves. So 80% of them. So here's what that means. It means that we've got to be intentional with the ones that we can be intentional about, because obviously we're not aware that there's 80% of our thoughts are negative. Although if you start to pay attention, and I'm inviting you this week to pay attention to your thoughts, you will start to notice that many of them are negative. And don't be discouraged when you find that out, because when you notice that one of your thoughts is negative, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pat yourself on the back and say, congratulations, you're present in the moment, right? If you can catch one of your thoughts, then that means you are present in the moment. So you say, great, and now what do I get to do? Now I get to choose a new thought. Thoughts are things. Choose the good ones, right? So that's how it works. We focus on our thoughts, we think about them, and they are creating. And sometimes what gets in the way of our thoughts are our beliefs. You see, it's the thoughts that manifest and create, but underneath those thoughts and fueling those thoughts are beliefs. And we're not always aware of our beliefs. Beliefs come from all manner of places, maybe from our parents, our caregivers, people that we admire. We take those beliefs in as a small child or as we move through our lives, and they're operating even when we don't know it. So you might have a thought, think about the Wright brothers for a moment. They had a thought about creating an airplane and flying. But some part of them had to believe it was possible, right? Some part of them had to believe it was possible. If they didn't believe that flight was possible, it never would have happened. And the truth about anything that's ever been created, ever, is it all began with a thought. Just think about it. The next cure for all manners of illness is just a thought away. It's just a thought away. The next solution to whatever problem you think you may be facing is just a thought away. So anyway, there are beliefs that are underneath these thoughts, and sometimes they get in the way, and sometimes these beliefs we're not aware that we have. Now, you can notice when you have a belief that's inconsistent with what your intention is by looking at where your behaviors are inconsistent with what your intentions are. So if your intention and you're thinking these thoughts, these wonderful thoughts about being healthy and whole and strong and vibrant, but you notice that your behavior takes you right by Lamar's Donuts. Anybody but me have that problem? And you know that Lamar's Donuts, I'm sorry if you work at Lamar's, but if you go by there every single day, it's not going to equate to perfect health and wholeness, probably. Or maybe there's some other behavior that you see that's inconsistent with a particular intention or thoughts that you're trying to hold, right? So you begin to say, all right, so what's the belief underneath this? What is the belief that takes me there? Well, maybe the belief is I'm not worthy and I need comfort in this moment and food will comfort me. Maybe that's a belief that you hold. And so when you begin to identify those hidden beliefs that can move you along the way toward manifesting your intentions, and your dreams and your visions. We had a very powerful workshop here called the Art and Practice of Living with Nothing and No One Against You. Many of you were there. We had 40 people there. It's been a while ago, a year or so ago, and Remo Bonario and Gary Simmons led that workshop. And part of that workshop was designed to help us look within and find out what beliefs were in our shadow self. In other words, we're hidden from our conscious mind. And I can tell you that I was surprised to see some of the beliefs that came up for me. But no sooner did I notice them than I accepted that they had been operating and, in a way, sabotaging. I'll just share, it's pretty personal stuff, but I'll just share one of them with you. One of them that came to me as we did this work, as they guided us expertly through this work, was that I am responsible. Well, part of it was just I am responsible. I think I'm responsible for the world underneath it all. I really have that belief. But then it was further. I am responsible for the happiness and the health of the people I love. So think about it for a moment. I love a lot of people. And if someone is not healthy, there's a part of me, irrational though it may be, that feels responsible for their health. So I've been looking at that particular belief and seeing how it plays out in my relationships. If there's someone in my life that's not, manifesting great health, then I feel like I'm at fault somehow underneath it all. Now, I know better. What I want you to get is I know better. It's not what I would preach. It's not what I would, what I would say to somebody else. But now that I'm aware that there's this belief that's been there since I was a kid, and we don't have time to go into that story, being aware of it means I can work that much harder to release it and then to claim the positive thoughts, the positive intentions. Get it? So you've got those beliefs too. We all do, that are sabotaging. When you notice them, don't be disenchanted. Don't be disappointed in yourself. Say, yay, here's an awareness that I know, right? Here's an awareness that I know. And now I can choose a different belief and a different thought and go to work on that. It's Olympic season coming up here this summer. And we know that athletes use creative visualization, right? We've heard that before. And I want to tell you the story of two particular gymnasts back in the 1980s. Their names are Peter Vidmar and Tim Daggett. And they were gymnasts. And this story is recorded in Canfield's book, The Success, whatever it is, this book about success I told you earlier. Anyway, so Peter is talking about how it is that they would practice every day. Of course, they had lengthy practices to hone their gymnastic skills, but at the end of every practice, they would take time to visualize. He said, to keep us focused on our Olympic goal, we began ending our workouts by visualizing our dream. We visualized ourselves actually competing in the Olympics and achieving our dream by practicing what we thought would be the ultimate gymnastic scenario. And not only that, but they would feel into it. The important piece of visualizing is that you want to feel into what it will be like for you. And Mike Dooley says you should visualize 5 minutes a day. You don't need to do 20 or 30 minutes, but 5 minutes a day on some area of your life where you have an intention or a vision. Maybe it's a relationship that you want to deepen. Maybe it's finding a significant relationship. Maybe it's being more fulfilled in your job. And you might think it's impossible to be fulfilled in that job, but you do remember like Mike Dooley did. Walking down the hall, what's it going to feel like when you are fulfilled in your job? 5 minutes a day, he says. So that's what these Olympic gymnasts were doing. And sure enough, Peter and Tim went on to the Olympics in 1984, and they both earned their individual gold medals and a gold medal for the entire team. As they were getting ready to compete, Peter tells a story. He says, I looked at Coach Mako, my coach for the past 12 years. As focused as ever, he simply said, okay, Peter, let's go. You know what to do. You've done it 1,000 times, just like every day back in the gym. Let's just do it one more time and go home. And sure enough, that's what he did. He visualized his success. And so did the other gymnasts. The power of visualization. I've always been captivated by that particular scripture in Genesis. It's in the second book of Genesis, where God brings the animals before Adam, And Adam gets to name them. God says, you name them. You call them whatever you want to call them. And so that's very symbolic because as Adam named each animal, he was identifying it, just like you and I get to name the circumstances of our lives. And we get to name the intentions and the dreams that we hold in our heart. And as we choose our thoughts around those intentions, we actually create them. Now, don't be discouraged if where you are today is not exactly where you want to be, because what you want to realize is that the thoughts and the beliefs, right? It's the thoughts that create, but the beliefs fuel the thoughts. The thoughts of yesterday and the past years, many years, have created where you are today. But what you choose to think today, what you choose to think in this moment, as you leave here today, those thoughts are creating your life this afternoon and tomorrow and next week and next year. And we get to choose. Thoughts are things, so choose good ones. You get to choose. You have the power of choice in you. So I have a couple of assignments for your home play for this week. You could call it homework if you want. I'm going to call it home play. First is spend 5 minutes a day visualizing something that you wish to experience in your life. Now you have to decide what that is. I've given you many examples, but everybody in this room has some dream, some vision, some hope. Spend 5 minutes a day. Dooley says don't spend 30 minutes at it. That's too much. You'll start to just measure your vision compared to your current life, and you might get discouraged. Just spend 5 minutes a day, once, maybe twice a day if you want to, okay? 5 minutes a day, he says. And feel it. Remember the feelings. What's it going to feel like when you have that relationship? What's it going to feel like when your partner comes to you and asks how your day was? What's it going to feel like to you? All right. Then the second thing I'm going to invite you to do is to help me prepare my lesson for next Sunday. That's clever on my part. This is part of my vision, having you prepare the lesson. So some of you have a practice of using affirmations. You know, affirmations are powerful present tense statements that really rock, okay? An affirmation is a statement like, I am whole and healthy now. An affirmation is a statement like, I am filled with peace, okay? A power affirmation statement. So I'm inviting you, if you have affirmations that are powerful for you and have been powerful for you, to share them. Go to our Facebook page and post them there. Or you can email me at the church, ucop@ucop.org. You can send it to pbass@ucop.org. But somehow get those affirmations to me. Include your name, if you will, in case I have a question about them. And because next week we're going to take this message further. We're going to take it into our languaging. We're going to help you learn to create new thoughts and new statements for your life that will create the life that you are seeking, this life of infinite possibilities. So that's number 2. Number 1 is meditate, or is visualize for 5 minutes a day. Number 2 is send us your powerful affirmations. And number 3 is to go to tut.com. This is Mike Dooley's web page, tut.com. And he sends out daily notes from the universe. How many of you get those already? Yeah, a bunch of you do. They're so powerful and so inspirational. They're clever, they're funny, and they're sweet sometimes, and always very clever, and they're inspiring. And if you would like to receive those for free, you just go to tut.com and sign in. And no, I don't get a commission for this. It's a free thing. I just think they're fun to receive, and that's why I'm encouraging you to do that. He'll help you stay on target, okay? So consider that. Consider that. I didn't get to be here last week. It was Father's Day. So I want to tell you a little bit about my father. When I was a child and I'd had a discouraging day, I'd failed at something or my feelings were hurt, my father would come in and he would say, Patty, it'll be a better day tomorrow. And sometimes it was and sometimes it wasn't. But there was always that mindset, that attitude, it'll be a better day tomorrow. You see, Mike Dooley says that these thoughts and beliefs are kind of like eyeglasses, you know, and if they're tinted, you put them on, and before long you wear them every day, and you don't even notice you're looking through tinted glasses. Well, My father wore a set of tinted glasses that said, "It's going to be a better day tomorrow." And he would tell me that. But I want to tell you a little bit more about my dad. See, he grew up in very humble beginnings. His dad worked on the railroad, was lucky to have a job. His mother took in boarders just so they could have enough money to make ends meet. And when my father was in college, he was putting himself through college and his sister. He was so penniless that the main reason he went to church on Sunday was in hopes that somebody would invite him home for lunch so he could get a free meal. Think about that as you leave today. So that's how he began. But then my father, once he got out of school, got out of the war and then got out of school, he went to work in his first job, had a college degree, but he started in the mailroom for a family-held company, and only members of the family were in charge. But my dad somehow, with his attitude of it'll be a better day tomorrow, and the other thing he would tell me was, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Yeah. So he worked his way up little by little, actually pretty quickly, from the mailroom, and eventually he became the president of their international subsidiary. This was a company that imported wines and spirits from all over the world. They also had product that was made here in the States, but Dad became the president of the company that did all the importing, their importing division. He traveled the world, getting to visit vineyards and winemakers. He was very successful in the way that he chose to be successful. And it was about that mindset, that positivity mindset. Our thoughts, your thoughts, are creative. Mike Dooley says that the one thing all famous authors, world-class athletes, business tycoons, singers, actors, and celebrated achievers in any field have in common is that they all began their journeys when they were none of these things. Yet they still began their journeys. So I would say that every thought is a new journey, and every thought is a choice. Thoughts are things. Choose the good ones. Thank you.